Hey everyone, ready for another deep dive? Today we're tackling something super interesting. Smoking cessation.
Specifically, how money can actually help people quit smoking.
Right. We're looking at a brand new research article called Pregnant and Quitting Smoking. Financial rewards make it possible.
And it's pretty fascinating stuff.
For sure. I mean, think about it. They're finding that giving people FASH can be incredibly effective in helping them quit, especially for pregnant women.
Yeah, and that's a huge deal.
Totally. But before we get into all the nitty-gritty of the study, I'm curious about the science behind it. Is it really as straightforward as just money talks? You know what I mean?
Well, it's not quite that simple.
Okay.
It's a bit more nuanced than that.
Gotcha.
It really all comes down to how our brains are wired.
Okay, I'm listening.
You see, addiction, whether it's to nicotine or anything else, kind of hijacks the brain's reward system.
Okay, so break that down for me a little bit more.
Sure.
What exactly do you mean by reward system?
Okay, so basically, our brains are designed to seek out pleasure and avoid pain, right? So when we do something pleasurable, like let's say eating a delicious meal or achieving a goal, anything like that, our brain releases this chemical called dopamine. And dopamine is it creates this feeling of satisfaction and reinforces that behavior, making us want to repeat it.
That makes sense.
Yeah, it's how we learn.
So then how does this all connect to smoking and financial incentives?
Okay, so nicotine, like other addictive substances, triggers a surge of dopamine, creating this powerful reward response.
Okay.
But over time, the brain becomes dependent on this nicotine-induced dopamine rush, which makes quitting incredibly difficult.
So are you saying that these incentives kind of work like a substitute reward?
Exactly, you got it.
Wow.
By offering a tangible reward for quitting, right?
Yeah.
Financial incentives tap into that same reward pathway. They provide a different source of dopamine, helping to kind of rewire the brain's response and making quitting more appealing.
So it's not just a matter of willpower then, it's more like actually changing how the brain sees rewards.
Precisely.
That's fascinating.
And the research really backs this up.
Oh, yeah.
This recent study that we're looking at, it points to a Cochrane review,
Right.
which is the gold standard for evidence-based medicine.
Gotcha.
And the review found that financial incentives actually do improve smoking cessation rates.
Oh, interesting.
And get this, the evidence for this is now considered high certainty.
High certainty. Okay, so this isn't just a guess then, there's some serious data behind it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
High certainty means that the evidence is super solid, super reliable.
Okay.
It's based on a ton of research.
So tons of studies have shown this to be true.
Right.
Got it.
Yeah.
And it's particularly interesting when you look at how it impacts pregnant women.
Yeah, for sure. The study really highlights that.
Can you remind me what those numbers were again?
Yeah, so for every 100 pregnant women who received these incentives, 13 quit successfully long term,
Right.
compared to only 6 who didn't.
Oh, wow. So that's more than double the success rate.
Yeah,
Okay, that's a big difference.
it is.
We're talking about a real chance at a healthier life here for both the mother and baby, right?
Absolutely.
But this wasn't just a small study, right?
Yeah.
How many people were involved in this?
Oh, no, not at all. It was actually pretty massive.
Okay.
We're talking about 47 studies across multiple continents
Wow, that's amazing.
involving almost 22,000 participants.
So it wasn't just one group of people in one place.
No, this was across the board.
Wow.
And they used different kinds of incentives, too.
Like what?
Well, things like cash or vouchers, ranging from small amounts all the way up to over $1,000.
So a pretty big range then.
Yeah.
Wow, so we're talking about a huge sample size then, and across multiple continents too. So this isn't just some cultural thing. It seems like this approach is effective across different cultures.
Yeah, it seems that way.
That's really interesting.
It is.
But I have to ask,
Yeah.
did the amount of money they got actually affect how many people quit?
That's a great question. And that's where things get really interesting.
Okay.
The amount of the incentive, it didn't really seem to affect the quit rate that much.
So it wasn't the more money, the more people quit.
No, not really.
That is intriguing.
It is, right.
Yeah.
It kind of further suggests that it's not just about the money itself.
Right, there's something else going on there.
Exactly. There's something deeper at play.
Fascinating.
Yeah. Yeah, it really points to the psychological side of addiction,
Right.
And how even a small incentive can be that thing that helps people make a change.
Yeah, that extra little push.
Yeah, exactly.
That motivation to overcome a really powerful addiction.
But, I'm sure some people listening might be a little skeptical about this.
I mean, paying people to quit, something they should be doing anyway.
Yeah.
It seems kind of counterintuitive, doesn't it?
I get that. I understand that perspective, definitely.
Yeah.
It kind of challenges our, traditional ideas about personal responsibility.
Uh-huh.
But when you really think about the cost of all the illnesses caused by smoking.
Oh, yeah.
The human suffering, the healthcare expenses.
Yeah.
It really changes how you see things.
So you're saying it's actually like a smart investment from a societal point of view.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's about moving away from blaming individuals and towards a more comprehensive approach to public health.
And there's evidence to support this, right?
Absolutely. There's growing evidence.
Okay.
Look at California.
Right.
They've been using financial incentives really successfully to help people with stimulant addiction.
That's right. I'd completely forgotten about that.
And now other states are starting to do the same thing.
That's awesome.
Yeah, they were using gift cards, right?
Yeah, that's what it was.
Small value gift cards.
Given out through Medicaid.
Interesting. And they actually saw results.
Yeah, really promising results
in
terms of getting people to reduce their stimulant use.
Okay, so we've seen it work for smoking. We've seen it work for stimulant addiction.
Right.
Where else could this be effective, do you think?
That's a great question. And honestly, I think the potential is huge.
Really?
Yeah. Think about things like obesity.
Yeah.
Lack of exercise, maybe even helping people stick to their medication.
Oh, that's a good one. Medication adherence is a huge issue.
Yeah.
Okay, so imagine a world where we're actually incentivizing healthy eating.
Right.
Regular exercise.
Preventative screenings.
Wow.
I mean, it could completely change things.
Yeah, that would be incredible.
It would, but of course it's not as easy as just handing out money.
Right, there's got to be more to it.
We need to be smart about how these programs are designed,
So, what kind of things should we be considering?
Well, equity's a big one.
We need to make sure everyone can benefit from these programs.
Right, not just people who already have resources.
Exactly.
Okay, what else?
And we also need to be aware of potential downsides, unintended consequences.
Like what?
Well, for example, if you're incentivizing one specific behavior, could that lead to people neglecting other important aspects of their health?
Oh, that's a good point. We need to be careful about that.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's complicated.
It is. It's a complex issue.
But it's also a really exciting prospect.
Absolutely.
If we can figure out how to use incentives the right way, it could totally change how we approach public health.
I agree.
It's pretty mind-blowing when you think about it.
It really is.
This whole idea of rewiring our brains, not just relying on willpower,
right?
It really opens up a lot of possibilities.
It does.
But okay, before we get too carried away with all the amazing potential of this,
sure,
let's bring it back to the study we're talking about.
Yes, let's recap what we've learned so far.
Perfect.
To this deep dive.
Okay, so we've learned that financial incentives can be a really effective way to help people quit smoking. And the evidence is especially strong when it comes to pregnant women.
Yeah.
Where it's not just about the mom's health, but the baby's health too.
Exactly. Huge implications there.
And we've also learned that it's not really about the money itself. Right. It's about understanding how our brains work.
That reward system.
Right, and how by providing a different kind of reward, we can help people break free from addiction.
Yeah, powerful stuff.
It is.
And we've talked about how this same approach could be used for other public health issues too.
Like we were saying, stimulant addiction, obesity, exercise, medication adherence.
All sorts of things.
Yeah, and we've even touched on the potential for even broader applications down the road.
Absolutely. The future is wide open.
It is. But before we wrap up completely, is there anything else you think is important for our listeners to keep in mind?
I think the biggest takeaway here is that this research really challenges us to rethink how we think about public health. We need to move past this idea that it's all about willpower.
Yeah, that's not always enough.
It's not.
And explore new strategies.
Exactly. Strategies that use what we know about behavioral science.
So instead of just blaming people for their choices, we need to create systems that actually make it easy for them to make healthy choices.
I couldn't have said it better myself.
And this research really shows that that can be done.
It does.
It's not just some pie-in-the-sky idea.
Right.
So if we can incentivize positive behaviors, what other amazing things could we achieve?
Right. Think about the possibilities.
Yeah, it's something for everyone listening to ponder. Yeah, it really makes you think, Like, what if we focus more on rewarding good behavior? instead of just punishing bad behavior.
It really is a different way of looking at things.
Yeah, like what if we could design a system that actually helps people make healthier choices?
Exactly. And this research is a perfect example of how that could work.
For sure. It's not just some crazy idea.
Right.
There's actual evidence behind it.
Yeah, and this whole thing really ties into a field called behavioral economics,
Okay, I've heard of that, but refresh my memory. What's that all about?
So basically, it recognizes that people don't always make, perfectly rational decisions.
Yeah, we're not robots.
Exactly. Our decisions are influenced by emotions and, biases and all sorts of social factors.
So it's like, instead of ignoring those influences, we can actually work with them.
Exactly, precisely.
Use them to our advantage.
So by understanding what drives behavior, we can come up with, more effective strategies to help people make healthier choices.
So it's not just about financial incentives then?
Right. Those are just one example.
Okay, so what are some other tools or strategies we could use?
Well, think about things like gamification.
Okay, yeah.
We see this all the time with fitness trackers and those kinds of apps.
Oh, yeah.
They reward you for reaching your goals.
Yeah. Right, like giving you badges and stuff.
Exactly. And it works because it taps into, our natural competitiveness, right?
Totally. I mean, I know I love getting those little rewards on my fitness app.
See? It's motivating.
Yeah, it really does keep me going, for sure.
And it's not all about external rewards either, right?
Sure, there's that whole internal motivation thing, too.
Exactly, like a feeling of satisfaction you get when you do something good for yourself.
Yeah, that feels good, too.
And that's where things like social support and community involvement are really important.
Right, like having a support system.
Exactly, because when you feel connected to other people who are working towards the same goals as you, it's easier to stay motivated, right?
Like that saying, if you want to go fast, go alone, but if you want to go far, go together.
Yes, exactly. And when it comes to public health, we definitely need to go far.
We do. We need to create a culture that actually values well-being.
I completely agree.
And I think financial incentives could be a part of that.
For sure.
But they're not the whole answer.
Right. We need a more comprehensive approach.
Yeah, one that addresses both the individual and the societal things that affect health.
Exactly.
So to wrap things up for everyone listening, today we've learned that these financial incentives can be really helpful in getting people to quit smoking.
Especially for pregnant women.
Right, exactly.
Where there are benefits for both the mom and the baby.
For sure. But what we've talked about today goes way beyond just quitting smoking.
It does.
It makes us think about how we can use behavioral science to actually create a healthier world for everyone.
Absolutely, and I think that's the most important takeaway here.
It is.
It's about investing in programs and strategies that really work, that are based on evidence.
And that are designed with a deep understanding of how people actually behave.
Exactly.
So it's time to move past those old ideas about willpower and really embrace a new, more effective way to promote well-being.
Couldn't agree more.
It's a pretty exciting challenge, and it's going to take a lot of creativity and collaboration, but I think it's possible. So as you go about your day, we encourage you to think about what we talked about today. How can we apply this to our own lives and to our communities?
What kind of future do we want to create?
Exactly. And how can we use incentives to help us get there? Thanks for joining us today for another deep dive.
It's been a pleasure.
We'll catch you next time.